afternoon, and welcome to the 2021 Women of Influence event. Today, we are on location at the beautiful Marriott Irvine Spectrum. Over the past year, our society has been faced with many challenges, so it's even more important to recognize the accomplishments of women around the world and locally that have thrived despite adversity. I have one action item for all of you today. Get social with us. Share your favorite parts of the program on your platforms and with your colleagues, and include the hashtag #OCWomenOfInfluence. Now I'd like to take a moment to recognize our presenting sponsor, City of Hope Orange County. Last year, our friends at City of Hope committed $1 billion to build a comprehensive cancer care center right here in Irvine, helping to advance our healthcare in the community. But I'll let City of Hope's president, Annette Walker, tell their story.
Good morning. City of Hope Orange County is proud to sponsor the Greater Irvine Chamber's 2021 Women of Influence Awards. Thank you to Brian Starr and Jessica Welch for organizing one of my favorite events. You know, I can't think of a better time than 2021 to celebrate our influence. We follow a year in which almost everything changed in our lives, our work, our family relationships, and concerns about our health. Now, we have an extraordinary opportunity to use our influence to take what we've learned in this year to reshape and rebuild the future. I am so fortunate because my job allows me to have a direct hand in creating and shaping the community that we live in. City of Hope chose me to lead the development of a cancer campus of the future right here in Irvine, and we're on target to realize that vision. Our comprehensive cancer center is set to open in 2022, and we aim to break ground on Orange County's only specialty cancer hospital later this year. Yes, I think it's pretty obvious I love my job. Can you tell? But I'm not alone in having the opportunity to influence the future. I believe that everyone in this room has a chance. Everyone has an opportunity to face challenges and build a better and stronger community. You know, leaders don't wait for things to happen. They're the catalysts. They're the ones who make things happen. And we have a golden ticket this year to use the disruption for good. But to do so with conviction, we've got to change a few things about ourselves in the process. Today, we're going to be joined by Dr. Marcia Link, who will share that while we all are aimed at using our influence at work around us, we can't forget how important it is to practice self-care, because positive change comes from within. I'll also advocate for another opportunity where we're called to be enormously influential. Let's seize this time to shed the separation that we've experienced in the last year, and let's make some new connections. Let's build networks of collaboration, support, innovation, and sponsorship like never before. Women have done this for generations, and now we have some new tools to keep doing it. The virtual network has eased access and put new people and new opportunities within our reach. Let's build on our talents as if our businesses, our families, our teams, and our communities depend upon it. Because they do. Lastly, after we're done here today, I'm going to ask you to take a minute to reach out to the great women that we're honoring. You know, write them a note, connect through LinkedIn or Twitter, show them your appreciation for her role as a model in these challenging times. And then, maybe in her honor, in honor of all the women who are here today and all the women who came before us, sponsor a young person so she too can one day be a woman of influence. Thank you, Greater Irvine Chamber, for bringing us together today to honor these women as role models. I hope they inspire us to use our influence and all that we possess to repair the rocky road that we've just traveled. I can't think of a group more ready to help our community, our livelihoods, and one another than the members of this great chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette, and well said. Women improve communities and the world with impressive achievements, as you will see in a moment, but together we are even more influential. As many of you may remember, we hold this event in March in celebration of International Women's Day, and Women's History Month. Each year, I am humbled as I learn about the incredible accomplishments and influence women have made over the recent months. Today, as I mentioned, just a handful of success stories. I ask that you put politics and bias aside and help nourish a compassionate and collaborative 2021. Let's start our look at influential women in the health arena, where two scientists, Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier, pioneered the revolutionary gene editing technology and were the recipients of the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Dr. Hadia Nicole Green has become the first person to successfully cure cancer in mice using laser-activated nanoparticles. Unlike common forms of cancer treatment, the laser-activated nanoparticles do not require chemotherapy, surgery, or radiation, which was her essential goal. In the male-dominated sports industries of Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, and the National Football League, among others, women have taken top positions leading their teams to victory. We've seen accomplishments at sea and in the sky. When Midshipman First Class Sydney Barber found out she was going to be the U.S. Naval Academy's first Black woman brigade commander, her first call was to her father, a 1991 graduate of the Academy. Through his tears, he expressed his excitement and overwhelming pride. Captain Susie Garrett and her first officer and daughter, Donna Garrett, worked for SkyWest and made history by piloting a commercial passenger plane together. How about our young women? I'm sure many of you watched the eloquent Amanda Gorman, who had written poems for historic occasions in the past, take her turn in the spotlight, making history herself at the presidential inauguration in January, where she delivered a message of hope and unity in her composition, The Hill We Climb. Even younger, just 15 years old, Gitanjali Rao was selected as Time's first ever Kid of the Year. During an interview, she spoke about her work using technology to tackle issues ranging from contaminated drinking water to opioid addiction and cyberbullying, and about her mission to create a global community of young innovators to solve the world's problems. As the LGBTQ community continues to work for equality and inclusion, these women found their way in government and leadership. Senator Sarah Mcbride recently said she spent her life fighting for people to have dignity, peace of mind, and a fair shot at staying afloat and getting ahead. In the corporate world, as the number of women running America's largest corporations hit a new high, companies all over the globe are following suit. Notable for our industry is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest business federation, naming their first female CEO, Suzanne Clark. We've seen these changes regionally, where for the first time, the Los Angeles Board of Supervisors is comprised of all women. Supervisor Janice Hahn said, "Serving on a board of 5 women means a lot to her personally, and what she wants most out of this historic moment is for girls and young women to see women in leadership roles and know that they are full of potential. Being a woman is not a disadvantage in leadership, it is an asset." Locally, first-time candidate Tammy Kim became the first East Asian American woman elected to Irvine City Council with a more than 5,000 vote margin. Also sworn in on December 8th was Mayor Farah Khan, a business owner, mother of 2 boys, and the first Indian American mayor for the city of Irvine. And lastly, regardless of political party affiliation, Kamala Harris becoming the first female vice president of the United States was a milestone in the nation's history. And as is the case with many strong women, she is the product of a loving family led by a powerful mother. I'll end this segment with a beautiful quote from our vice president. "I have a message for all the little girls and boys out there who dream of growing up to be superheroes. Superheroes aren't just figments of our imagination. They're walking among us. They're teachers, doctors, and scientists, and you can grow up to be like them too." 2020 was interesting. Even aside from the pandemic, which has been earth-shattering, the stock market crashed, we saw both peaceful and violent protesting across the U.S., deadly wildfires erupted from California to Washington state and burned 47 million acres in Australia. Harry and Meghan quit the royal family. Oh, and let's not forget murder hornets. Everyday business looked a lot like this last year. In fact, I remember greeting many of you with handshakes and hugs at this same event in 2020. But today, life looks more like this. But I see even more superheroes, nurses, chefs, teachers, executives, all who've had their worlds turned upside down by a global pandemic. But look at how they've thrived. Each one of you who is burnt out by Zooms, educating your children at home, concerned about your organizations, and still managing to get dinner on the table, you are all the heroes. And it often takes a village, so we can't forget to thank the spouses, significant others, families, and friends that have pulled together to support one another. Lastly, remember that it is our responsibility to lift up the next generation of women and encourage them to reach for their dreams, whether that's becoming a doctor, a teacher, or even a softball player.
Like me. See you later, Mom.
Bye, Scarlett. Here to talk to us about the importance of self-care as we enter into 2021, it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Marcia Link is principal of Link Consulting. Her career has included working at Indiana University Medical Center as a psychiatric social worker and as a master trainer for Development Dimensions International. She has also served as the adjunct faculty at the University of California and Webster University. As a consultant and coach, Dr. Link is dedicated to lifelong learning and continuous improvement, making those around her better by helping them achieve their personal goals and professional goals. She splits her time living in Newport Beach and in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and is the proud grandmother of 4 wonderful grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Marcia Link.
Thanks, Jessica, for that kind introduction. It is my honor to be here with you today at this Women of Influence event. And I, too, want to give my thanks to Annette Walker and the City of Hope for sponsoring this event, and to the hard work and efforts of all the chamber staff who worked so hard to put this virtual event together, and my friend Danny Remington, whose ideas and comments inspired me for the content of my presentation. We are here today to honor 8 amazing women who have had influence in our community and will continue to have. But each one of you who is in the audience is also a woman of influence wherever you are, and I'm glad you are here. Women work in a variety of settings. Some of you may be a business owner. Some of you may be entrepreneurs. Some of you may work in institutions of higher learning, and still others may work in companies, little, medium-sized, or large. Wherever you are, we have one thing in common. All of us women are doing our very best to manage our lives and navigate these uncertain and lengthy pandemic times. And today, together, we are going to look at the idea that now is the time to thrive. So many of you have probably worked in companies where you've experienced mergers, acquisitions, maybe downsizing, or on the higher note, an IPO, an initial public offering. So today, I'm going to use that acronym IPO to suggest it can be our formula for helping us thrive. And the 3 parts of that is the I. To imagine what is. We need to stop and reflect on our current situation, where we have been, where we are now, where we can go in the future. The P is to prepare to thrive. And by that, I mean that each one of us can create our own personal toolkit so that we can create the kind of things that will help us move to the next level and have more influence in our lives. And the O is for optimize our opportunities and to think outside of the box and think about the possibilities, some of which probably haven't even crossed our minds yet. So I'd like to take a deeper dive into each one of these I, P, and O. And for the imagine what is, there are 3 elements that I'd like for us to consider. The first one is to pause. There is power in pausing, in stopping, in being present in the moment. And I don't know about you, but I know that during this pandemic, I have felt hurried, frenzied, running here and there, trying to figure out how to navigate and prepare the new normal, whatever that is. But when we stop, it gives us a time to literally catch our breath. And when we catch our breath, we can think about the things we are thinking about, the feelings we are having, and it will help us manage those better. Isn't it interesting that we're called human beings? We're not called human doings. So all that frenzied activity, when we stop, can really help us. The second element in the imagine what is to name it and tame it. Now, I mentioned that we all have had a myriad group of feelings and thoughts through this pandemic, and it's lasted so long. And sometimes when we pause and can reflect on what those feelings are, we can put a name to it. And then we can tame it and decide how we're going to manage those thoughts and feelings and not have those thoughts and feelings manage us. So I'm wondering, if we were live, I'd probably ask you to take a poll and we'd consider the thoughts and feelings that you might have. So we're going to do it here virtually. And although we can't poll what you're feeling, here are some things that you might be experiencing or that you have experienced in this past year. Increased personal and professional responsibilities. Now, I know that in your lives, and maybe you're a mother with children at home, and you've had to deal with virtual learning and the change that that has caused in your families and your lives. If you're a professional woman who has no children, your businesses have had to make a major shift in how they do business, in how you do your work. It was interesting that just this last week, I read a survey from McKinsey, who published a report after interviewing many, many women, and they were asking about the things that had impacted them most during this pandemic. And one of the things that they found was that women reported that they spent, on an average, 3 hours more every single day doing personal and/or household chores. And in the McKinsey report, they ended up by saying that this pandemic has disproportionately been negative for women. And if you add up those 3 hours a day, in a week's time, a woman has another half-time job. So maybe you've experienced this kind of pressure as well. Feelings of uncertainty and fear about the future creep in, and especially as we're learning how to do our work differently by working virtually. And maybe you have been concerned about whether or not your job will even be there in the next few months ahead. Also, we've all had a sense of isolation. I know I have. And it's been hard to figure out how to connect with people when we have to social distance. This has brought around generalized sadness, and I have several friends who are clinicians, and provide psychological help, and they report that the incidence of depression and anxiety has really been on the rise. And I think that we have a sense of loss because we haven't been able to connect with people. Although I have a friend who says, I'm zoomed out and I'm not going to do team meetings anymore. I'm just going to pick up the phone and call my friend and connect. I think we women have a special way of making that connection, and we need to do that more. I know I miss activities that I enjoy, and you might too, like going to musical performance or going to museums or just gathering with a large group of friends. Perhaps you've had your concerns about health, about your own and your loved ones. And hopefully with the vaccine being widely available, this might go down and we won't be as concerned about this. And lastly, maybe you felt like you have some pressure because you have limited resources, either financially or otherwise. So these are a few of things that if we can name it, we have a better chance to tame it. And so the last part of the imagine what is to contain it so that we can maintain it and maintain ourselves. And this has to do with being able to compartmentalize. All those things I just showed you on the previous slide are possibilities that we've been thinking and feeling. And if we can put a name to it, then we can manage it better and say, okay, I'm feeling a concern about my health, but I'm going to deal with that. I'm going to do what I can and have the influence over my own health, but I'm going to deal with it and then put it in a box. And I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to not let it drag me down. I want to be able to move on to the next thing that I need to do. Now, it's interesting. In my coaching career, I've noted that men are a bit more able to compartmentalize than women. And I think there's a reason. It's not in our nature to do so. For example, women are used to multitasking. We're used to doing X, Y, and Z, and maybe W too. And we just don't feel comfortable putting things in little boxes and leaving them there. And secondly, women are all about relationships. We are relational to things and people. And so when we see something that concerns us, we think about how is that in relation to something else? But if we can practice that skill a little more as women, I think it will be useful for us to imagining what is so that we can move on and thrive. So let's advance to the P. And before I do that, I want to show you this quote by Oprah. I love it because for all those things that we were dealing with before on my slide, Oprah says, challenges are gifts that force us to search for a new center of gravity. Don't fight them, just find a way to stand. And so if we do that, we can move on to the P, to prepare to thrive. And again, this is something that we can do to build our own unique toolkit. And mine will be different than my best friend's. Mine will be different than yours. But there are 3 elements for preparing to thrive. The first one is to practice self-compassion. This may be the toughest thing to put in your toolbox because it's not a natural thing for any of us to do, but it's so critical. For some, practicing self-compassion may be totally foreign. For others, it might be a work in progress. And still for others, it might be something that you say, I can do that for my best friend, but I can't quite do that for me. And that's okay, but we can practice that. And one way of practicing it is to chill out that inner critic. Many of us have an inner critic that constantly knocks away at it and says, you're not good enough, you're not perfect, you did that wrong. And if we can tell that inner critic to chill out and tame it a little bit, we will be ahead of the game to practice self-compassion. Now, some of you might think, oh, self-compassion, that's a selfish thing. Or if I'm self-compassionate, I'm not strong and I'm not a powerful woman. Well, here's something I'd like to remind you. Jacinda Ardern, the very young and poised Prime Minister of New Zealand, has made it very clear when she says, I refuse to believe that you cannot be both compassionate and strong. And that's my message for you about self-compassion. Now, the second part of preparing to thrive is to choose what you value most. If you can identify what you value most, you are ahead of the game, and those also are the drivers that motivate you to thrive. Now, most of us could figure out 1 or 2 things that we think we value most. But there are a lot more values than 1 or 2. And if we can prioritize a lot of our values, that will help us create our own unique plan for thriving. And let me say, there's no right or wrong about these values. There aren't oughts and shoulds. When we get rid of that and be honest with ourselves, we can identify what's most important. And here are just a few to consider. For example, one of them is family relationships. Now, we're all part of a family, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you were an only child, whether you were one of 10, you belong to some kind of family unit. How much do you value that or not? Another value category is career advancement. And certainly that's not news to this audience. Women who are here are surely valuing their career advancement. Healthy lifestyle might be one of your priorities. And for some women, they want a 9-to-5 job. They don't want a 12-hour job a day. And that's okay. And they value living a healthy lifestyle and doing other things besides work. Another category of values is volunteer and philanthropy activities. That's important to some people and not so important to others. Wealth and financial security might be a top one for you. Who knows? But that's a category of value which will drive where you put your time and energy. And then there's travel and leisure activities. And lastly, an active social life. These are a few of the categories of values that I would welcome each of you to explore and prioritize, because once you have prioritized your values, you will then be on your road to determining what you need to do to thrive. So the last point in preparing to thrive is to make deliberate decisions. Once you have prioritized what you want, you have practiced self-compassion, then putting your intentions into action is what will make you thrive. And we've long known for a long time through social science research that people who write down their goals have a much better success rate than those who don't. So being deliberate about that, writing them down, and then putting them into action is what will take you to the next level of thriving. The last part of our IPO is to optimize our opportunities. And by this, I would suggest that we can do a better job at thinking outside the box, not just thinking what we should do, not just thinking what we have done, but to give ourselves the power to think outside the box and consider what is out there in the future. And for timing your thriving plan, there are a few things to consider to help you optimize. And I'm going to suggest a few, and maybe you could pick out one or two that might fit you. The first one is to honor your strengths. Each of you is a woman that has unique talents, skills, experience, education, a special personality. And when you look at yourself and honor those and be generous with yourself, it opens up possibilities that you never thought you could do or even think about. And oftentimes it takes us to practice self-compassion to quell that inner critic, as I mentioned before, so that you honor who you are, the power that you have, and the choice of where you spend your time and energy. You can also set specific intentions, and I also mentioned about the importance of writing down your goals, but there's one other thing I want to add here, and that is with the pandemic, the changes in our normal life, we have had to create new ways of doing things, and our companies have had to create new ways of doing things. For example, if you're in a company that has regular performance reviews and a promotional ladder, you might have had an intention that you were going to be promoted to VP of marketing in the next 6 months. Well, you may need to reconsider what those aspirations are, given what we have been through and what we are experiencing, but don't give up on them. Another thing is to be patient with yourself and be compassionate toward yourself. Enough said about that in our previous point. The other thing is that try to encourage yourself to experiment. And when you're thinking about possibilities, think about acting on a possibility as an experiment. And if it doesn't work out, then change the experiment. If it doesn't give you what you think, learn something from it. For about a decade of my career, I worked in a medical device company. And I can tell you, I witnessed an R&D team work incessantly on experiments in the lab before they finally got to a product that was impactful, safe, and was able to be commercialized and help patients. Experiments are valuable. Don't be afraid of them. And I know we all have a different level of risk, but try to take on this idea of experimenting. The other thing is to practice optimism and hope. And enough said about that. I just think that optimism and hope always trumps pessimism and despair. This is an idea that you could consider. Ask a friend or a colleague to support you in your efforts, in your examining possibilities, and help them hold you accountable. And if you're one of the lucky ones who in your career has had a mentor, a coach, or a best friend that has been supportive of you, you know how important that is to receive feedback and to feel the encouragement from someone you value. So experiment with that as well. And commit to doing one thing differently this year than you did last year. That alone will expand your possibilities to a great degree. We are in a day and age when we all have to learn something new. I know I had to learn how to Zoom. I had to learn how to visit with my clients via Zoom and team meetings. So if we commit to saying, I am a continuous learner, you will thrive and find new possibilities. And lastly, and this is one that's important to me as a coach, is use your influence to help others thrive. There's nothing more that it fills me with gratitude than to see a client succeed when they reach their goals. And so you have the potential and the possibility to help others thrive. And so, as we look at your IPO, I want to share Maya Angelou's quote. The question is not how to survive, but how to survive with passion, compassion, humor, and style. And I know she's talking about surviving, but if we apply these principles, you too will thrive. So in conclusion, I want to say good luck on creating your own IPO. And these are my wishes for you. May you be happy. May you be healthy, and may you thrive in 2021 and beyond. Thank you very much for your time. I've enjoyed being with you, and I wish you all the best of luck as you thrive in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Link. Your thoughts about exercising optimism and being compassionate to ourselves are so important as we navigate through these challenging times. Now let's recognize some of our local heroes who have been doing just that. First, I'd like to congratulate all of our nominees, more than we've ever had for this program. Your dedication to your families, organizations, and communities is inspiring. Now, on to the awards.
Introducing the 2021 Women of Influence. Game Changer, Janine Hill. A professor of health sciences and founding dean of the Crean College of Health and Behavioral Sciences at Chapman University, Dr. Janine Hill has been credited with defining and developing the healthcare focus at the university. Dr. Hill founded Chapman Research Centers, including the Biopsychosocial Approaches to Health, the Brain Institute, and the Francis Smith Center for Individual and Family Therapy, which assists socioeconomically challenged Orange County residents with mental health and family-related services. Her nationally recognized research has been funded by the American Heart Association and the American Lung Association. Dr. Hill recently received a $1 million undergraduate education grant from the W.M. Keck Foundation. Dr. Hill has had an immeasurable impact at Chapman, in Orange County, and across the country. Congratulations, Dr. Janine Hill. Executive, Patty Juarez. Patty Juarez has helped advance women and Latinas and Latinos in the financial services industry. She was appointed president of Latinos at Wells Fargo, representing the interests of more than 45,000 Latino women and men, and mentoring many young Latina and Latino youth to achieve their dreams. She served as chair of the Women in Leadership Group at Wells Fargo, advocating and promoting the contributions of women in banking. She pioneered and co-led the group that began focusing on women-owned and women-led companies as potential Wells Fargo clients. She has advocated for the promotion of women at Wells Fargo, seeing double-digit growth in women holding power positions in the organization. Patty speaks across the country on diversity and inclusion issues, Latinas as an economic force, and the growth of minority-owned businesses. She is regularly invited to Harvard, Stanford, and other universities to speak to and train women and minorities about access to capital. Congratulations, Patty Juarez. Advocate, Mayor Farah N. Khan, City of Irvine. Elected City of Irvine Mayor in 2020, Farah N. Khan is leading the nation's most notable master-planned communities into the future. Initially elected to the Irvine City Council in 2018, she is the first woman of color to be elected to the council. In 2014, Mayor Khan was appointed as a Community Services Commissioner for Irvine. Her goals are to protect Irvine's quality of life, build back its economy, and restore transparency in local government. Her first initiatives as mayor include the creation of the COVID-19 and business reopening task forces, which allow the City Council to make informed decisions for the safety and well-being of residents and visitors. Mayor Khan introduced the Irvine Cares initiative, inviting the public to pledge to protect one another and slow the spread of COVID-19. She is a legacy partner with the Irvine Public Schools Foundation and is active in the PTA at her son's schools. She has served on the steering committee for the Irvine Global Village Festival, is a community emergency response team volunteer with the Irvine Police Department, and is an active member of the Irvine Rotary Club. Congratulations, Mayor Farah N. Khan. Entrepreneur, Natalina Nasserdeen. Innovative and hardworking, Natalina Nasserdeen has a high emotional quotient and engages a great number of people through multiple endeavors. A certified leadership and confidence coach, TEDx women's speaker, and best-selling author on Amazon, Nata creates strategy for building leadership, confidence, and business development wherever she goes. Nata lives what she teaches. Nata took her business, Rise Up For You, from $100 to a $250,000 enterprise in just 6 months. Today, she has a team of 8 that serve the local and global community and is quickly approaching a multi-million-dollar business. In 2020, amid the pandemic, Nata launched a second organization, a nonprofit specifically designed to support youth by helping to build their emotional intelligence and social resilience. In the last 3 months, they have served 785 students. Congratulations, Natalina Nasserdeen. Authentic Leader, Danny Remington Smithson, Executive Vice President, Regional Manager of Bank of Southern California. Danny Remington Smithson is a leader who respects and cares about the development and growth of those she leads and mentors. She fights hard for those who deserve it and sincerely shows her appreciation for work well done. She generously gives of her time to help others grow professionally. Danny exudes positivity, approaches everything with a can-do attitude, and hardly ever takes no for an answer. Well known for her involvement in the community and dedication to championing meaningful causes, Danny serves on numerous business-focused and nonprofit organizations, often assuming leadership roles. She is a member of the Risk Management Association Orange County Chapter's Board, Women in Finance Chair, Honorary Chair for Irvine Public Schools Foundation Golf Tournament, and a longtime member of the Serving People in Need Advisory Board. She served on the Greater Irvine Chamber Board of Directors and was previously the chairwoman for the Women of Influence Planning Committee. Congratulations, Danny Remington Smithson. Innovator Amy Von Kanel. An innovator and entrepreneur, Amy Von Kanel founded Volunteer Crowd, the first volunteer project marketplace and transcript platform for college and career-bound students. It allows students to find, request, and track academic-related volunteer projects to create a service transcript to provide to colleges and employers. Many that seek qualitative measures of success and validated insights into extracurricular activity. Volunteer Crowd's verified transcript distinguishes college applications based on students' dedication to learning outside the classroom and soft skills acquired over time. After winning the UCI Paul Mirage New Venture competition and becoming a semi-finalist in Octane's Launchpad, Amy's startup was accepted into the UCI Beal Applied Innovation Wayfinder Incubator and is on its way to revolutionizing the transcript and volunteering marketplace. Congratulations, Amy Von Kanel. Rising Star, Caitlin Yang. A mechanical engineer and material science major at the University of California, Irvine, Caitlin Yang serves as Student Association Manager for the UCI Entrepreneur Center. Caitlin takes it upon herself to provide exceptional mentorship, guidance, and support to UCI undergraduate entrepreneurs. Caitlin founded her first startup as a freshman, creating Start Smart, an entrepreneur development organization dedicated to helping youth entrepreneurs get access to the knowledge and resources needed to develop, start, and grow their business ideas. Establishing a company with such a great mission inspired her next venture. As a sophomore, Caitlin created Grasshopper Fund, the only high school entrepreneur crowdfunding platform. Always willing to pitch in with her skills and knowledge, Caitlin is dedicated to mentoring student entrepreneurs at UCI. Congratulations, Caitlin Yang. International Women's Day Award, Lynn Yoakim. As Chief Operating Officer at 5 Point, Lynn Yoakim is responsible for the planning and development of large-scale communities in Orange County, as well as Los Angeles County and San Francisco. Through a unique public-private partnership with the city of Irvine, Lynn helps to lead 5 Point in transforming the former Marine Corps Air Station El Toro into Great Park neighborhoods. The mixed-use community Lynn oversees now includes 6,200 of its planned 10,500 homes, including 709 affordable housing units for low-income families and seniors. It includes 3 new schools, new parks and trails, the 12,000-seat 5 Point Amphitheater, a wildlife corridor, the future City of Hope Orange County Cancer Care Campus, and the multi-sports complex that's nearly twice the size of Disneyland. Lynn is integral in the evolution of a net-zero greenhouse gas community in Valencia, which is poised to become the most sustainable of its kind in the nation. Under Lynn's operational leadership, 5 Point is creating a total of 40,000 residential homes and 23 million square feet of commercial space, while generating approximately 288,000 jobs during construction and $54 billion in activity for the California economy. Earlier in her career, Lynn founded her own business and would later help to advance women in her industry by founding the Building Industry Association Women's Education Council. Congratulations, Lynn Yoakim.
Congratulations to all of today's winners and nominees. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, City of Hope, and to all of our event sponsors who made today's program possible. I hope you join us for our next program, Celebrate Irvine, on June 9th, where we will recognize our region's frontline heroes and celebrate the City of Irvine's 50th anniversary. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you are inspired to nurture your own power to influence and thrive.